All right, so I'm just gonna jump into things, and then people can join as they please. So today we are going to talk about kind of an interesting thing. It's kind of like it's unique to certain municipalities across the country. Not every city does this, but it just so happens that I live in one of the cities that does do this. So it's very applicable to the month of March. So basically, just for kind of a background of water disinfection in the US, most municipalities will use either chlorine or chloramines to disinfect the tap water. And when I say disinfect the tap water, that means kill off all of the bacteria and certain viruses from the drinking water. And so this is kind of one of the main reasons why waterborne illnesses aren't really a huge issue in the US. So that's kind of what sets us apart from developing countries, is that we have tap water chlorination in place that kills off all of the bacteria and biological contaminants that might be in your tap water. So a majority of cities in the US will use chlorine. And you probably are very familiar with that really intense pool like taste and smell, especially when you travel to a new city. So like, for example, every time I go home and like go to my friend's house or whatever, not during COVID obviously, but and I drink water from their sink, the first thing I notice is tap water smelling like a pool. Like it really just hits you in the face. So most cities use chlorine. Chlorine can react with organic matter in tap water to create this category of harmful contaminants called disinfection byproducts. We have a whole other Instagram live dedicated to disinfection byproducts, or DBPs, but that's just one of the realities that comes with chlorinating your tap water. So because DBPs were problematic and chlorine is a really, really harsh chemical, and it doesn't really stay in water that long, scientists created an alternative by adding ammonia to the chlorine to make chloramines. And so a lot of cities, including Washington, D.C., are now starting to use chloramine instead of chlorine in the tap water. So chloramine is a really, really great alternative. It's a little bit less volatile, but it stays in the water longer, so it does its job for a longer period of time and through more distribution pipes. So every spring, DC and then some other cities are beginning to do this as well. So year-round, chloramine is being added through the water system to kill the bacteria. But once a year in March, it's usually end of March, DC Water, the utility provider for the city, will switch the disinfectant to chlorine. And this is kind of like a spring cleaning, if you will. So basically what they're doing is they're just doing a really intense flush of the distribution pipes to make sure that there aren't any biological contaminants kind of lingering from a year or so of chloramines being used. So this is kind of standard practice in DC. Again, other cities are starting to do this. If you're curious if your city uses chloramine for a majority of the year and then switches, DM us and we will figure that out for you. So because of this, you can expect a very significant change in the taste and smell of your water, especially if you're a DC resident. So because we're all used to chloramine, and then you add chlorine, which we know tastes worse, smells worse, you'll notice a very unpleasant change to your tap water. Only if you are not a Hydroviv customer, because we take care of both chlorine and chloramine. So you don't have to worry about that if you have a Hydroviv filter. But some people can't stand the chlorine taste and smell, and they'll actually buy bottled water for this period of time. And the switch usually lasts like a little over a month usually. It depends on what DC Water is doing that year for kind of like a spring cleaning. So that's kind of the general deal on why some people might notice a pretty significant change in their tap water this spring. And they do this switch in the spring because, the spring is kind of that time when there's a lot of primary production, a lot of algae blooms, a lot of biological contaminants are reproducing, and it's kind of the time when bacteria is most prevalent and in highest quantities, is during these early spring months. So that being said, I just did want to touch on boil water advisories, just because it's a little bit applicable to what's going on in the news right now. And I see a couple of our water nerds are watching this live right now, but the people who answer chat know that we've been getting tons of questions about boil water advisories because of the winter storms that have been going on in the south. And so basically a lot of water systems and utility providers are either offline, or there are, broken pipes, there's stagnant water, which in turn leads to extreme biological contamination just being present, and it leads to bacteria being in tap water. And for that reason, municipalities then are required to issue a boil water advisory. And this can be like a really scary thing if you just all of a sudden get this notice that's like, don't drink your water without boiling it. But it really is, the intention is just to protect you from waterborne illnesses, because you no longer have the protection of chlorine or chloramines, because it's just stagnant water. So this is just kind of a PSA to, first, our Hydroviv customers, always listen to boil water advisories. Even if you have a Hydroviv filter, we still tell every single one of our customers, if your municipality is saying boil your water, boil your water. And as for non-Hydroviv customers, even if you have a Brita or a Pure or any other type of water filtration device, just still boil your water. We cannot stress that enough. And so if you have any questions about boil water advisories, please make sure to reach out to one of our water nerds. Like I said, we've been getting a ton of questions regarding, what they mean and how to kind of protect your family from biological contaminants and bacteria that might be in water. With that being said, this is just kind of like a quick little overview. You might expect a change in taste in your tap water in the spring, but other than that, if you have any questions, make sure to DM us, or you can email us at hello@hydroviv.com. And we also have a live chat feature on our website, hydroviv.com, and you can chat our water nerds. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. So have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all next week.